Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to the Correct Views. Sam I.B. Gangi reporting for the Media Speaks, bringing us in with a little bit of passing time. Guys, we've got news today that I've been warning that this was about to be happening for how long? Very, very sick and tired of people acting like Russia and Putin are these great, the Russian leaders are so great just because they oppose Obama. Now, granted, any sane person can clearly see that Obama is leading the country in the wrong direction. And all the way back to Clinton, the entire world has been damaged by many of the actions of the U.S. Not all, but the ones that come to mind, like starting with Iraq and Patriot Act and the death of the Fourth Amendment and selling our nuclear trade secrets to China. Well, the Ukraine isn't any better. Russia isn't any better. You have Obama bombing kids, bombing schools, drone attacks on wedding parties, and he lies about it. Well, here you have Russia invading the Ukraine and lying about it. They are both different sides of the same coin. Why is that difficult to understand? I do not know. This is from Al Jazeera. The Ukraine has accused Russian forces of attacking its soldiers after crossing over into the country's east to back pro-Russian separatists in violation of a September truce deal. So, you've got Obama breaking treaties, you've got American leaders breaking treaties, and guess what you have in Russia? You have Russian leaders breaking treaties, don't you? It said the allegations, met with initial silence by Moscow, could add further tensions to heated talks in Germany's capital, Berlin, on Wednesday, aimed at curbing a spike in fighting that has already killed 4,800 people and driven 1 million from their homes. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, on a visit to Davos in the World Economic Forum, planned to cut short his trip due to the worsening situation in his country's rebel-held east, his spokesman Syaroslav Tasoloko said. In violation of all prior agreements, Ukrainian military units were attacked in the north of the war zone by regular units of the Russian armed forces. Ukrainian spokesman Andriy Yashchenko told a press conference in Kyiv, which is Ukraine's capital. Now, again, I'm not saying everything that the Ukraine does is wonderful either. They want to bring conscription back. But the fact that they are and they could be drafting up to the age of 60, mind you, the fact that they are looking to draft people would be a pretty good insinuation here that it's not a false flag, that they didn't do it to themselves. The claim came only hours after Moscow called absolute nonsense an allegation by Kyiv that about 700 new Russian soldiers had crossed over into eastern Ukraine to help the rebels' latest advance on government troops. Yeah, because it's so easy to fake it. They film them coming in. Blasts of incoming and outgoing artillery echoed all night across the rebels' main stronghold on Donetsk, a once bustling industrial hub that now faces one of Europe's worst humanitarian and diplomatic crises since the Cold War. Ivan Prikhodko, a member of the separatist administration of Donetsk, said 2 civilians were killed and 8 were seriously wounded when a shell hit a bus stop at the northeastern edge of town. Sounds to me like Obama bombing other countries with drones, doesn't it? Killing civilians. Here we go, bam, 2 civilians killed, 8 seriously injured, just like Obama. Quit giving me this BS about Putin being some kind of savior going to make me throw up on camera. The bus stop itself and the store nearby have been leveled, it says. 2 top Western diplomats in Kyiv said they believed the pro-Russian rebels had made significant progress on the ground in recent days. One of them added on the condition of anonymity that the gunmen appear to be trying to undermine European peace efforts in order to win more ground before the final partition agreement is reached. In other words, snag up some more land, lie about how much you had. Sounds like Putin's just a wonderful person. He's just the leader we want to look up to. The flare-up coincided, it says, with the warring sides' attempt to establish a demarcation line between their armies that would define the confines of rebel-controlled lands. So basically what you've got is Russia, Putin, invading a sovereign nation, just like every other crappy world leader that we talk about all the time. So please, please, I'm begging you, can we stop with the Russia worship? Can we do that? Moving on, USA Today. New police radars can see inside homes. Well, I thought this was all things, that was science fiction and conspiracy mindedness and all that, right? Well, it's from the USA Today, so I would call that a pretty mainstream publication. Let's see if they think it's a conspiracy theory, shall we? At least 50 U.S. law enforcement agencies have secretly equipped their officers with radar devices that allow them to effectively peer through the walls of houses to see whether anyone is inside, a practice raising new concerns about the extent of government surveillance. I'd also want to know about the safety regarding nuclear emissions with this. How many X-rays do you want? Think about it. You're supposed to limit how many X-rays you get anyway, because overdoing it can create a major cancer risk. Well, here we go. Those agencies, including the FBI and the U.S. Marshals Service, began developing the radar systems more than 2 years ago with little notice to the courts and no public disclosure of when or how they would be used. Well, that's great. The technology raises legal and privacy issues because the U.S. Supreme Court has said officers generally cannot use high-tech sensors to tell them about the inside of a person's house without first obtaining a search warrant. Then I guess it's okay to juice him. The radars work like finely tuned motion detectors, using radio waves to zero in on movements as slight as human breathing. From a distance of more than 50 feet, they can detect whether someone is inside the house and where and whether they are moving. Current and former federal officials say the information is critical for keeping officers safe. On keeping officers safe if they need to storm buildings to rescue hostages. Yeah, it's always for the children. It's always for the hostages. But yet they're going to use it to pick up Joe Blow for selling weed out of his bedroom. Privacy, that's how the Patriot Act was used. So don't tell me it can't happen. Privacy advocates and judges have nonetheless expressed concern about the circumstances in which law enforcement agencies may be using the radars and the fact that they have so far done so without public scrutiny. Yeah, because, in Sieg Heil America, you don't have to answer to anything, do you? The idea that the government can send signals through the wall of your house to figure out what's inside is problematic, says Christopher Soghoian, an American Civil Liberties Union's principal technologist. Technologies that allow the police to look inside of a home are among the intrusive tools that police have. Agents, it says, use the radars was largely unknown until December, when a federal appeals court in Denver said the officers had used one before they entered a house to arrest a man wanted for violating his parole. Oh, but it's just for hostages. No, they can violate your God-given Fourth Amendment right to illegal searches and seizures for anything. Are you going to stand for this? I don't see why you would. It says the judges expressed alarm that agents had used the new technology without a search warrant, warning that the government's warrantless use of such a powerful tool to search inside homes possessed grave Fourth Amendment questions. Yeah, as in it's perfectly illegal. It says by then, however, the technology was hardly new. Federal contract records show the Marshal Service began buying the radars in 2012 and has so far spent at least $180,000 on them. That's your taxpayer. That's your money, Mr. Taxpayer, Mrs. Taxpayer, going to violate your own rights. Justice Department spokesman Patrick Rudenbush said officers are reviewing the court's decision. He said the Marshal Service routinely pursues and arrests violent offenders based on pre-established probable cause and arrest warrants for serious crimes. Friends, this is another gross, vastly gross overreach. It says the radars were first designed for use in Iraq and Afghanistan. They represent the latest example of battlefield technology, finding its way home to civilian policing and bringing complex legal questions with it. It goes on that these concerns are especially thorny when it comes to technology that lets the police determine what's happening inside someone's home. That's because it should be illegal for them to do so. The Supreme Court, I might add, ruled in 2001 that the Constitution generally bars police from scanning outside of a house with a thermal camera unless they have a warrant, and specifically noted that the rule would apply to radar-based systems that were then being developed. So basically, the cops knew that they weren't allowed to do it, and they went ahead and did it anyway. How do you stop this? You stop this by finding out if you're one of the cities that it is in. Very little research here. Finding out if it's your city, going to city council meetings, and having a fit about it. It has to do with being angry enough that you won't put up with it anymore. Steve Watson, Infowars.com. Government takes custody of a teen girl and forces her to go through chemotherapy. This has to be the most disgusting story I have of the day. It is up to this girl to decide for herself what treatment she wants. And it is up to her parents to bring something up if they don't want her doing it the way she's doing it since she's under 18. I would say no matter how old she is, as long as you are old enough to grasp the full complexities of what it is that you're doing, that you should be allowed to do it. The Child Protective Services here and the government itself, don't you realize, please listen to me, don't you realize that the Romans would take children, conscript them, indoctrinate them, do whatever they needed to do? Look up the Hitler Youth. An entire generation of Germans were brought up to think that the Bible was based in Germanic lands. The government forces people now to, you get a DUI, they can force you, even though you weren't drunk, even though you were a threat to no one, they can force you into medical counseling. They do it all the time. They shouldn't have a right. What right does the government have to say what medical necessities you have? If you've incurred a fine, you pay your fine. They have no right to put you in anything. Well, now they have the right to force you to take chemotherapy, which, depending on the kind of cancer you have, may lead to your death. I know very few people that have gone through chemotherapy and lived through cancer. It says a 17-year-old girl in Hartford, Connecticut was forced to have chemotherapy against her will and was taken away from her parents by government agents after they supported her decision to pursue natural remedies to treat her cancer diagnosis. Granted, a lot of times it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It didn't work for Steve Jobs. But the point is, it wasn't up to them. So, I mean, well, what would I say to somebody watching this who's 17 and in this position? Don't stay at your house. Hodgkin's lymphoma sufferer Cassandra Fortin refused to undergo chemotherapy treatment for the disease, and her family respected her decision. This prompted doctors from the Connecticut Children's Medical Center to report the case to the Connecticut Department of Child Welfare and Families, which are Nazis, alleging that the parents were neglecting their daughter's medical needs. No. She decides what she wants to put into her body, you bastards. It's not up to you. You get out of the house, you get out of their life. And if she decides that she wants to take Swiss cheese as her treatment, that is her decision. That is her decision. It is not your decision. It says, according to Cassandra's mother, the pressure from the government agents caused her daughter to flee home for fear that she would be made to go undergo the treatment, which involves flooding the body with chemical substances, so she did try to get out, including Big Pharma developed anti-cancer drugs in order to cure rapidly dividing cells. CCMC reported to DCF that I was not giving medical attention to my daughter, Cassandra's mother, Jackie Fortin, told local newspapers, adding that she has always, even years ago, said that if she was diagnosed with cancer, she would not put poison into her body, nor should she have to. Kevin Blanche is somebody that has beat cancer with chemotherapy. I bet you he would say the same thing. He wants the right not to do it. I bet you he does. I can't speak for the man, but I'll guess. This is sickening. It says the government agents reportedly tracked and apprehended Cassandra, then handing her over to doctors. The family claims that their daughter attempted to fight off the doctors, who literally strapped her down to a table and forced treatment on her. How is anybody listening to my voice not livid? I don't even know this girl, and I'm so angry that if I don't make myself talk in a very polite, calm voice, then all I'm going to do is scream into the camera. This is every reason that I do this freaking show. The state hearing in November then ordered that Cassandra, who does not turn 18 till September of this year, be taken into custody by the Department of Children and Families. The case will ultimately be decided in the Supreme Court this Thursday. Family attorney Michael Taylor told reporters, when you think about what freedom means, a big part of it means you are able to say to the government, you can't tell me what to do with my own body. Amen. There are a lot of ways to state that the state recognizes that people who are under 18 can be mature enough to make important decisions. It should be completely up to the 17-year-old in every way, shape, matter, or form. It says chemotherapy is the standard treatment, but there are many alternative forms available for cancers of treatment, and they are often ignored as called rubbish by the pharmaceutical industry, who is simply trying to make a profit. And if you don't believe it, then if you get cancer, you get chemotherapy. I support your right to do it. It's a decision up to the person that has to go through it. It is not a decision that needs to be left up to the government. So the first 5 people that leave a message on my Facebook page, get a hold of me in my inbox, and let me know that you have called the Hartford, Connecticut Department of Children and Families and complained. The first 5 people that say that they did that, I am going to give you 3 weeks of your favorite charity promoted on this show. I want you to make their phone ring, and I want you to make their lives a living hell. Friends, CBSNews.com, legally living hell. CBSNews.com. This was good in terms of what we're looking at from the last story. It says, could a 200-year-old whale offer clues to help humans live longer? This was interesting. I don't know if it's going to work. It might be like that shark cartilage thing that never really took off, or it might be something that is really significant, and we can speculate with an article like this. It says that scientists are hoping that the fountain of youth might be hidden inside a whale species that can live up to 200 years. Geo Pedro de Magalhães and his team at the University of Liverpool sequenced the genome of the bowhead whale, the longest living mammal on Earth. The team wanted to understand why they lived so long and didn't succumb to some of the same illnesses as humans do earlier in life. One of the big mysteries of biology is understanding species differences, including species differences in aging, Magalhães told CBS News. It says, for example, mice age 20 to 30 times faster than human beings, and we don't know why. Even primates, that would be monkeys for you Usher fans, which are closely related to us, age considerably faster than human beings, he said. There has to be some genetic basis to why humans age slower than chimpanzees, for instance, which are very genetically similar to us. Likewise, there has to be some genetic basis as to why bowhead whales live so long and appear protected from illness. With 1,000 times more cells than a human, the whale should have a much higher probability of cell death and disease, but it doesn't. Well, do elephants? They're bigger. Giraffes? It says, in their findings published in the journal Cell Reports, the team found as many as 80 candidate genes that may help protect the whale from cancer and contribute to being the longest living animal on Earth. So it seems to be cancer, obviously, as you get older, that they're looking at first. It says the team found that the whales have genes related to DNA repair, as well as those regulating how cells proliferate that differ from those found in humans. We know that DNA damage and DNA mutation are important for cancer. So when we find genes related to DNA repair and DNA damage responses, we think maybe this could be involved in longevity and disease resistance of the bowhead. In that case, you won't find a fountain of youth in the genome, but you may find some promising leads. It says there's a huge industry for this, looking for longevity genes. I bet they are. And I'm in favor of this, by the way. Again, not mandating it on anybody, but I'm in favor of this for sure. It said they could create a world where 90-year-olds could be as healthy as 50-year-olds as soon as 2030 with this. It says the whale study offers hope. He was quick to point out that it will be years before they know whether any of these genes will lead to new drugs or treatment of humans. There won't be any bowhead whale supplements on store shelves anytime soon, he joked. But it's interesting, and it's good to see that we are looking to do something for our fellow man other than just kill them. Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views. Correct Views has 3 more stories left for you, including the DUMBDEE of the day, which you do not want to miss. I just want to invite you, as I do daily, to check out the work of Mike McLaughlin. Why? Because you read. If you're watching this show, you're not like your normal dumb Kesha Beyonce fan. You actually have a brain in your head, and you probably read. Well, if you read fiction, and I used to before this show, and now I do as research, if you read fiction, then you're going to want to read Mike McLaughlin's fiction because it's well written, well thought out, and a must-read for anybody who enjoys reading. Also, friends, don't forget you can donate to this show. I'm trying to raise about $25,000, and I want to live off that for the whole year. So I'm not asking a ton of money. I'm trying, anybody you know that owns businesses or whatever, 25 grand, I'm trying to do that so that I can run this 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, possibly Tuesday through Saturday, because no one does that. And in a format similar to Rush's or Sean Hannity's or something, only with the logic that is espoused here. So if you can make that happen, please do. A very small section of my listening audience can, but I know you're out there. All right, guys, 3 more stories as I promised here at 420. I just clicked 421. GreenvilleOnline.com bills target gun rights education in schools. Now, do you want to know why school children could bring guns to school in my dad's generation for show and tell and not shoot anybody, even accidentally? Because they taught you that your First Amendment was your freedom of speech and whatnot, and they taught you what it meant. They then taught you, guess what? 1 and 2. All the Lady Gaga fans missed it. 2, the Second Amendment. They would teach you how to responsibly use a gun according to the mandates, God-given rights, or, if you're a Darwinist, a fish. John Bailey spent a Friday afternoon over Christmas break taking his 13-year-old son Connor to shoot pistols at Allen Arms Indoor Range in Greenville, which is excellent, so that the kid knows how to responsibly use a gun. He showed Connor how to load, aim, and fire the weapon. He also instructed him on what to do if he ever saw friends playing with a gun or found one laying on the ground. He knows to get the heck out of the room and talk to adults, Bailey said, and he doesn't call himself a gun fanatic. He wanted to demystify the idea of guns for his son. Again, I am adamantly against gangster rap. Why? Because it takes no talent to do it. The beats could be made by a first-time beat maker, and the lyrics are normally very, very, very predictable. Guess what? I'm not in favor of banning it. Listen to all the gangster rap you want. Somebody in your life needs to step up and tell you what real is and what real isn't. It's that simple. When I was growing up, it was Judas Priest and Ozzy Osbourne that were going to make me this terrible person, and I was going to drink bat's blood or something. A number of bats I've ever eaten that I know of, 0. Again, why? Because I was raised in a way that they taught, my parents fortunately taught me fact from fiction. It says he does think children should have knowledge of gun safety. Who instructs children on the gun rights and safety has traditionally been left out of the state school systems. But bills pre-filed in both chambers of the South Carolina legislature would bring gun rights squarely into focus in the classroom. Who do you want teaching about guns? Who? What, you want the gangster rappers to do it, right? Or you want the cool show on TV to do it, right? Don't you think that's kind of dumb? And again, this isn't so much like sex education, because in this instance, a lot of parents don't know how to teach their children gun rights. What would I say? What is the correct view here? The correct view would be to have the children test on knowledge of guns. And if the parent has already taught them, then they don't need to take the class, but they should have to test out of it, in my opinion. Why? Because you should be fluently knowledgeable in matters that have to do with the Constitution. In order to graduate, I know, I'm a crazy person. Bill of Rights, I guess you'd say. Schools are the right place to instruct students about firearms, but it said it could be up for debate. Unfortunately, zero-tolerance policies regarding guns at South Carolina schools has led to a backlash against citizens' gun rights and a lack of knowledge on how to safely use firearms. A Republican state legislator said as they prepared to open new session in state legislature. State social studies standards that instruct teachers to explain how the Constitution and Bill of Rights helps protect limited government. Schools don't go far enough to explain gun rights, he said. One bill, pre-filed in the State House, would create a Second Amendment Awareness Day. It would be held on December 15th each year in state schools, complete with a poster or essay contest centered on the theme, the right to bear arms. One American right protecting all others, which is exactly what it is. Students at every grade level would receive at least 3 weeks of education on their gun rights based on a curriculum chosen by the State Department of Education and approved and or recommended by the National Rifle Association. By avoiding the Second Amendment speech in schools, Alan Clemens wrote, they're giving the short shrift to one amendment that protects all rights. And again, if they're not taught how to, students aren't taught how to properly respect and use guns, then they're going to go ahead and use them irresponsibly when they finally do get their hands on one. Imagine an 18-year-old driving a car without any knowledge. He turns 18, he goes out and he gets in that car, and I guess it'd be 16. Off he goes. Was that a good idea? Do you think that's a good... Then why would you do it with a gun? Says in this case, it squelched the student's First Amendment rights responding to an assignment when he wasn't even allowed to talk about guns in the school. Wasn't even allowed to talk about it. It was a 16-year-old whose locker was searched after he wrote a fictional essay that mentioned purchasing a gun to kill his neighbor's pet dinosaur. So friends, if that's the kind of education we have now, maybe we should bring the responsible adults into the classroom and teach children how to properly use guns. I am in favor of that. Last two stories to get to, friends. This is, I'm going to do some disclosure ahead of time. Since you don't normally see this from politicians, I'll do it as a show host. I have a bit of a vested interest in this, as in I am a New England Patriots fan. I don't care about college football. College football just steals money from kids. Kids are dying to go to school, but they can't afford to. Meanwhile, the school spends a fortune on the football team. Yeah, to hell with that. But the NFL, I like the NFL. I do. I don't think... you've got idiots in it that beat their girlfriends. You've also got really good moral people like Palomalu. So I'm not so much worried about that. I don't see what the big deal is here about what New England did. Because before I get into this, and I'm sure you've heard about it, Deflategate. The NFL refs allegedly never noticed the deflated footballs. Kit Daniels writes it. Who cares? In prior seasons, if you had a deflated ball, you would be the only one using it. The Colts used the same damn footballs. So if the refs didn't notice it, and Kit Daniels seems to be attacking the refs here, and I love Kit Daniels, I just don't agree with him on this. Why in seven hells doesn't the Colts notice it? They say, oh, the refs handle footballs all the time. You mean to tell me the Colts don't? What are they? The Colts are the dolts. NFL referees allegedly never noticed the deflated footballs used by New England Patriots, and I would say the Colts, raising concerns that Deflategate involved more than just the team, especially considering the millions in bets surrounding the AFC Championship game. And again, I cover this because it's not illegal to fix an NFL game, by the way. It is not illegal for them to do that. The trouble is, if they don't do something about it, then you're dealing a huge gambling risk there. You're stealing off of legitimate businesses, such as gambling places. You are rigging it, and you are messing up the livelihood of thousands of other people who run legal gambling sites. You're messing with the livelihoods of thousands of people. You're messing with the game of gambling that people get into. That is why this matters, even if you hate football. It says the NFL determined that 11 of the 12 balls used by the Patriots during their January 18th game against the Colts were underinflated, making it easier to throw, carry. But how did referees who handle footballs all the time supposedly never notice? The Colts reportedly grew suspicious after linebacker DeQuell Jackson intercepted Tom Brady late in the second quarter. Ben Volen of the Boston Globe reported, a softer football is easier to throw and catch, especially in rainy conditions that was prevalent that Sunday night. The Colts used the same balls. If the balls were underinflated enough for the Colts to notice, why did they notice when they had the ball? You'd think the refs would have also noticed the balls felt different since they're the final official inspection. Says, did the Deflategate conspiracy involve others outside